Have you ever wondered why just a single word, a glance, or a small action from someone can make you explode? Why are there people who seem to know exactly where to touch to make you lose your composure? Carl Jung once said that what bothers us in others is actually a mirror reflecting the parts of ourselves that we have not yet accepted. Anger is not a momentary reaction. It is a message from the unconscious, a gentle knock from the soul trying to be heard. But instead of listening, we often get caught in the loop, react, regret, self-blame, then react again. We think we're angry at others, but in reality, we're angry at the parts of ourselves that haven't been healed. This is not a lesson on how to suppress emotions. This is a journey home, where you will learn to look straight into your own shadow and realize that anger is not the enemy, but the guide. And if you're ready, stay until the end of the video, because in the next few minutes, you will discover 10 lessons that can forever change the way you see yourself. And perhaps after today, you will never be able to get angry at anyone the way you used to. Number 1. Anger is a mirror, not a weapon. Anger is not your enemy. It is the most honest mirror the soul uses to reflect upon itself. But most of us don't know how to look in the mirror. Instead of quietly observing the reflection, we pick up that mirror like a weapon, hurling it at others, accusing, reacting, punishing. And in that chaos, we forget that what we see in the mirror was never truly them, but always the unaccepted part of ourselves. Anger, according to Jung, is a signal. It points to something within you that is being touched, a part you are not yet ready to face. When someone makes you explode, it may not be because they are truly awful, but because they have unwittingly touched an old wound you thought you had forgotten. Imagine a familiar situation. You're driving, and someone cuts you off recklessly. In that instant, anger flares up like fire. You honk, curse, your heart pounding. But if you pause for just 1 second, you might see. What makes you furious isn't just that inconsiderate act, but the feeling of lost control, of being violated, of not being respected. Feelings etched deeply into your memory from long ago, perhaps from childhood, when you were imposed upon, ignored, hurt, without being able to fight back. The reckless driver is merely an unwitting mirror, bringing that memory to light. The anger belongs to you, not to them. In analytical psychology, this is called projection. When we refuse to accept a part of ourselves, selfishness, weakness, envy, or the desire for recognition, we push it into the unconscious. That rejected part becomes the shadow. But the unconscious doesn't vanish just because we will it to. It waits for an opportunity to manifest, and it often does so by appearing in others. That's when we encounter people who are selfish, arrogant, insensitive, qualities we despise, but which are precisely what we've hidden within ourselves. Thus, every time we get angry at someone, we are very likely reacting to our own rejected inner part. Just as when you look in the mirror and see a smudge on your cheek, you don't smash the mirror, you wipe yourself clean. But in emotions, we often do the opposite. We attack others to avoid seeing the smudge on our soul's face, and each time we do, painful, but it is necessary, because only through reflection do we see our own shape clearly. If you learn to observe anger with awareness rather than react with instinct, every flare-up will no longer be a failure, but an opportunity. An opportunity to understand, to heal, and to become more whole. Number 2, no one makes you angry unless you allow it. And once you've dared to look straight into anger, you begin to realize an even deeper truth. No one can make you angry unless you allow them to. That statement may sound harsh, but if understood rightly, it is one of the most liberating truths Carl Jung ever left for humanity. For it speaks not of suppression or endurance, but of absolute responsibility for your own inner world. In every situation, your emotions are your own property. No one can make you feel anything if the seed of that emotion isn't already within you. Others merely touch an existing string, but they don't create the instrument. They are only the trigger, not the controller. Like a musician who happens to pluck a slack string, the sound that emerges belongs not to them, but to the instrument you carry in your heart. Every time someone makes you lose your composure, they are simply showing you, somewhere in your soul, there are still strings that haven't been tuned. Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." When we blame others for our emotions, we are still asleep in the ego's dream. The ego believes happiness depends on the outer world, that if others change, if they are fairer, kinder, more understanding, we will find peace. But the unconscious doesn't operate by that logic. It continually arranges situations, people, and words that unsettle us, to remind us to look inward. The outer world, in Jung's philosophy, is not random. It is the reflecting surface of the unconscious inner content. Everything and everyone we encounter plays a role, so we can recognize what within us remains unreconciled. Imagine, you're at work. A colleague makes a comment that hurts you. Anger rises like a wave. You feel belittled, diminished, and insulted. But if you pause, just for a moment, and observe that anger, you might realize the reaction doesn't stem from that statement alone, but from a deep-seated fear of judgment, a fear rooted long ago, perhaps from childhood, when a criticism once made you believe you were not good enough. Now, that colleague isn't hurting you. They are only awakening a sleeping wound. And when you understand that, you don't need their apology to find peace. You only need to see yourself clearly. In that moment of awareness, the anger dissolves, not because you try to chase it away, but because you've withdrawn its power. If you've had such a moment in your life, write it down in the comments. A short sentence describing that moment and what you unexpectedly realized about yourself. You'll see, when you put it into words, the fire has already turned to light. Jung called this withdrawing projection, a turning point in psychological development. When you stop blaming others, you reclaim the psychic energy once scattered into the world. Every time you get angry, you hand the key to your emotions to someone else, letting them decide whether your day is peaceful or stormy. But when you take back that key, by observing instead of reacting, you become the inner controller. Anger can only exist when you believe others have the right to hurt you. But when you understand that your emotions are your responsibility, anger loses its fuel. It's like a flame cut off from its source. No one needs to extinguish it. It dies out on its own. This doesn't mean you must stay silent or tolerate wrongdoing. On the contrary, when you master your emotions, every action of yours becomes clearer and more powerful. You can say no without shouting. You can set boundaries without hurting anyone. Self-mastery is not suppressing emotions, but maintaining consciousness amid them. Anger doesn't weaken you, but an unconscious reaction robs you of freedom. Conversely, when you can see anger without letting it control you, you are in the position of the self, the deepest self, where there is an unshakable stillness. And so, every time someone bothers you, instead of seeing them as an adversary, you can view them as your soul's therapist, sent to help you understand yourself more deeply. When you no longer allow others to dictate your emotions, you not only reclaim peace, but also the sovereignty of your soul. And that, in Jung's language, is the beginning of true freedom. Number 3. The person who infuriates you the most is your harshest teacher. And once you've understood that the shadow always finds a way to return, you'll realize something even deeper. The people who infuriate you the most in life are actually the harshest teachers your soul sends to you. They don't come to hurt you, but to expose a part you've refused to see. Every time someone makes you angry to the point of trembling, it's not just a clash between two people, but an encounter between you and your own inner shadow. Jung called that moment a fateful meeting between consciousness and the unconscious. Usually, it doesn't happen in are really energy replicas of your own self sent by the unconscious for you to look back at. But recognizing this doesn't mean you must endure or condone wrongdoing. On the contrary, it gives you the power to choose a conscious response over instinct. When you understand the other is merely playing a role in your lesson, you no longer react as a victim but respond as a student. You can say enough without anger. You can walk away without hatred. And right in that moment, the person who once infuriated you the most becomes your soul's most important teacher. As Jung once said, the meeting with the shadow is the apprentice piece of the individual's life. They don't teach with words, but with wounds, not with reason, but with your reactions to them. They make you see the part of you that is immature, unloved, unforgiven. And when you understand that, gratitude replaces anger. Number 4, anger arises when we resist reality. After understanding that the person who makes you angriest is your soul's harshest teacher, you touch a deeper layer of truth. Anger doesn't just arise from others. It arises when you resist what is. Jung once said, "The ego is the subject of all personal acts of consciousness." It forms, so to speak, the center of the field of consciousness. The ego cannot bear it when reality does not conform to its will. It wants everything the way I think, I want, I deem right. And when life does not comply, anger appears as a rebellion against the truth. Try to recall, the last time you were angry, it wasn't because someone did wrong, but because they didn't do it right as you expected. You wanted that person to understand you, respect you, and act reasonably. But they didn't. You wanted the outcome to follow your plan, but it veered off. You wanted the world to treat you fairly, but it never does. Anger is born in the gap between expectation and reality, between how things should be and how they are. And the tighter you cling to the desire for control, the more you suffer. Jung called this the conflict between the ego and the self, the deeper self. The self understands that everything unfolds to bring you to awareness, but the ego only sees loss, deviation, and injury. Thus, anger is not the enemy, but a signal. I am resisting what is. When you see that, you begin to view anger as a map leading to surrender. Just like when you try to hold water in your hand, the tighter you grip, the more it slips away. Reality is the same. Everything and everyone has its own path. You cannot force anyone to love you, cannot make others think like you, cannot command the world to always be fair. But you can stop fighting what is happening. In the moment you accept what is, the anger cools on its own. Not because of suppression, but because you cease the battle. Before continuing, take a moment of stillness, breathe slowly, and look. How many angers in your life are really just disappointments because the world refuses to follow the script you wrote? Jung understood this long ago. When you stop rebelling against life, you begin to listen to it. For every event, no matter how uncomfortable, is the way the unconscious and the world collaborate to expand your consciousness. If you are angry, try asking, what do I want different from what is? The answer will lead you to the root of all suffering, the desire to control what cannot be controlled. Look a little deeper. What if the people who hurt you the most are actually fulfilling a sacred role in your developmental journey? Jung believed the soul has its own intelligence. It arranges those teachers to appear exactly when you need to learn a lesson, not to punish, but to call you awake. The person who drives you mad may be the one helping you see the part of you that is still immature, dependent, or fearful. When we don't understand, they are the causer of pain. But when we do, they become the giver of the lesson. And if you pay attention, such encounters always carry a special energy, both attracting and opposing, like the poles of a magnet. That is the sign that something deeper is operating beneath the conscious layer. From Jung's psychoanalytic perspective, these tense relationships belong to the principle of synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence that the universe uses to reflect unconscious content. The more you resist that teacher, the more the lesson repeats, because the soul does not abandon your growth process. In truth, that discomfort, that conflict, is the best environment for consciousness to be forged. For no one grows in peace. We only truly mature when challenged by the mirror shards reflecting our dark parts. And when you are awake enough to no longer hate them, but only see them as part of your self-awareness journey, you not only pass the lesson, but also free yourself from the unconscious cycle of repetition. Number 5. You have the right to feel angry, but not the right to harm. And when you begin to see that anger mostly arises from resisting reality, from the desire to control what cannot be controlled, you step into an even deeper layer. You have the right to feel angry, but not the right to. True freedom comes when you can hold the energy of emotion in your hands without letting it harm anyone, including yourself. Like someone who knows how to tend a fire, they don't extinguish it, nor throw it at others. They use it to illuminate, to warm, to cook the rawness within. There is a subtle distinction Jung always emphasized between repression and containment. Repression is pretending not to feel anything, which causes negative energy to accumulate and turn into illness, depression, or explosive behavior. Containment, on the other hand, is allowing the emotion to exist, but not letting it control. When you say, "I am angry, and I will not act until I understand what I'm angry about," you are in the power of the self, the enlightened self Jung called the center of psychological balance. From Jung's analytical viewpoint, the journey of learning to feel without harming is the transformation from instinct to consciousness, from reaction to creation. Anger is the rawest energy of life, but also the energy with the deepest transformative potential when elevated to awareness. Jung believed every emotion is the raw material of the spiritual alchemical process. When you hold back the energy of anger without letting it erupt outward, you are performing a kind of soul alchemy. turning crude fire into light, reaction into understanding. The one who cannot master anger turns the world around them into a battlefield. The one who holds anger in consciousness turns it into a laboratory of inner growth. If you observe closely, you'll see that every time you are about to say something hurtful to another, beneath it is always a wounded part crying out for help. But when we don't hear that call, we turn anger into retaliation. Thus, holding anger is not suppression, but giving it a new language of awareness. In practice, every sustainable relationship is based on this principle. Emotions are real, but actions must be conscious. The spiritually mature person does not deny anger. They just don't let anger become a dagger. They know that hurting others never soothes the inner pain. It only deepens the wound. And when they choose silence, choose breath, choose intentional words, they do not weaken. They are using the energy of anger to build rather than destroy. Number 6. The relationship between childhood trauma and anger. And once you've understood that you have the right to feel angry, but not the right to harm, we come closer to the root of all the angers you've ever carried. They don't begin in the present. They are echoes of childhood. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." No sentence describes more accurately the connection between childhood trauma and adult anger. Because the anger you feel today is, for the most part, not just for the person in front of you. It is for those who once hurt you when you were too small to fight back. Childhood doesn't disappear. It only changes form. The buried memories of abandonment, scolding, dismissal don't die. They hide in the unconscious and wait for an opportunity to surface. An offhand word from someone, a misunderstood action, an indifferent glance, all can trigger the inner child you thought had grown up. And so, the adult in you reacts with anger, but the one truly raging is not you now. It is the child from back then, demanding justice. Try to imagine, as a child, you were scolded for crying, for being angry, for being wrong. You learned that emotions are dangerous, not to be shown. And then you grew up in repression, carrying a shell of rationality, calm, control. They were compressed, thickened, and one day, with just a small word, that shell cracks, and the child's anger from years ago floods through the adult's body today. One of the hardest things is to admit that much of our anger is unfair to the present. Someone says something harmless, but you react as if they've destroyed the world. That's because the anger has transcended time. It drags along suppressed childhood, blending into the now. But the important thing is, you can rewrite that story. Every time you realize that today's anger doesn't just belong to the person across from you, but is also the inner child's response, that is the moment healing begins. Because that child doesn't need you to erupt, it only needs you to see it, hold it, say, "Now I am here. I will protect you." In that moment, the repressed energy begins to soften, and anger is no longer a weapon, but a bridge between present and past. Jung called this process the return of the inner child. Every time anger rises more fiercely than necessary, it is a sign that the inner child is being activated. But instead of listening, most of us try to straighten the emotion, judge it as wrong, weak, or negative. It is that rejection that makes the anger deeper. Jung believed, what is rejected in the inner world returns from the outside in the form of fate. When we do not allow our inner child to speak, Life sends people and situations that force us to hear it, through injury, through arguments, through inexplicable rage. But healing does not come from teaching that child to be silent, but from hearing it. Leading to freedom. If these words touch something in your heart, don't forget to send a small sign so we know you're still here. A like, a subscription, as a gentle way to say, I am continuing this journey with you. Number 7. Silence is not weakness, but strength forged in fire. When you begin to understand that intense emotions are not to be feared, but maps guiding you back to yourself, you will recognize another profound paradox. Sometimes, true power lies not in speaking, but in silence. Silence is not weakness, not surrender or avoidance. In Carl Jung's eyes, silence is the state where consciousness and unconscious harmonize so deeply that no argument is needed. It is the stillness after the inner storm has been heard, no longer needing to shout to prove anything. We often confuse silence with defeat, endurance with tolerance, but they are entirely different. Endurance is suppression, silence is mastery. When you endure, the anger remains, only pushed deeper, waiting for an opportunity to erupt. But when you choose silence over understanding, you stand at your center, where no one can pull you from balance. Jung once said that the inner world of the mature person is like a still lake. Though the sky may storm, the water still reflects the light. That silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of reaction, a space in the mind where consciousness can hear the soul's voice before acting. In practice, silence can be the strongest response you have. When someone insults you, the ego's first impulse is to retort to defend its image. But the weaker the ego, the louder it is. When you know who you are, you don't need to prove it with words. Just as a mountain doesn't need the wind to affirm its height. Silence is not a lack of voice, but a presence without words. It is the energy of one who no longer plays the ego's petty games. Think of an argument you've been through. Perhaps you said everything you wanted to say, tried to prove you were right, and in the end, only emptiness remained. But at another time, you chose silence. You saw the futility of arguing with someone not ready to listen. You breathed, you held your peace, and when the conversation ended, you carried no bitter aftertaste. That is the power of one who understands that true victory lies not in having the last word, but in not losing oneself in the fight. In Jungian psychoanalysis, silence is the manifestation of the unified principle of opposites, where instinct and consciousness no longer conflict, but walk side by side. When a person reaches this state, they no longer need to prove, persuade, or win or lose, because within them is already wholeness. Jung believed most people talk too much, not because they have something to say, but because they fear silence will expose their unconscious content. We speak to fill the void, to avoid the unease of hearing our own soul's echo. But the one who has learned the power of silence understands that silence is not evasion. It is confrontation at the deepest level. In silence, there is no room for excuses, for reasons, for defenses. Only the raw truth of what we feel remains. Notice that the strongest inner people are always the quietest in moments of conflict. Not because they lack arguments, but because they have transcended the need to prove their worth. They know every heated debate is two egos trying to survive, not two souls seeking understanding. When you choose silence, you don't lose. You refuse to join the ego's war. And in that refusal, you preserve energy. The energy others have unconsciously squandered in the argument. That conservation of energy becomes power, the power to observe without being drawn into the emotional whirlpool. At a deeper level, silence is the language of the soul. When the mind is no longer noisy, the unconscious has a chance to speak. In the moments you are silent amid conflict, you create a psychological space Jung called the transcendent function, where the opposites within you, anger and calm, fear and confidence, injury and love, can dialogue. In that space, the miracle happens. The ego stops reacting, and the deeper self, the self, begins to speak. The answers you seek no longer come from reason, but from inner knowing. Remember, true silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of reaction. When you are silent from awareness, you master your energy frequency. And that is why Jung regarded silence as a form of soul alchemy. In that furnace, the fire of emotions is held long enough to turn into the light of wisdom. The one who knows silence does so not because they don't feel, but because they understand every emotion is a wave, and if you are patient enough to wait, every wave eventually dissolves. Thus, silence is never weakness. It is the pinnacle of self-mastery, where one is no longer driven by the need to react, but guided by the need to understand. The one who knows silence is the one who has passed through the storm and realized no shout is needed to be heard. For in the end, the strongest is not the loudest speaker, but the one who can hold peace amid the thunder's roar. By now, perhaps you've realized, anger was never their story. thought that a morning message is merely a polite social gesture? If so, you've overlooked one of the most powerful gateways into the human mind. For Jung, words are not just meaningless letters strung together. They are living symbols, carrying energy and the capacity to awaken the deeper layers of the unconscious. Every message you send, no matter how simple, can become a knock on the door of the inner self, stirring the imagination, evoking emotions, and leaving an imprint in memory. Consider this. The same good morning greeting might pass through one person's mind without a trace, leaving you forgotten in an instant. Yet, at other times, just a few words can make someone restless, curious, and unable to stop thinking about you all day. The difference lies in how you touch their unconscious, what desires you awaken, and what symbols you plant in their mind. Thus, a morning message is not just a greeting. It is a key that unlocks the imagination, nurtures connection, and quietly creates an irresistible allure. In today's video, I will reveal 7 morning messages designed based on Jung's philosophy that no one can ignore. But be cautious. Once you master the art of using words as symbols, you won't just be remembered, you might become a sweet obsession in his mind. Are you ready? Number 1. The message of mystery, awakening the unconscious through the unfinished. In the realm of psychology, there is an undeniable truth. The human mind despises emptiness. We are driven to complete what is unfinished, to seek answers for what remains unexplained, and to close circles left open. That's why mystery is not just an enticing game, it is an invisible psychological force that draws people in, impossible to resist. A mysterious morning message is like a door slightly ajar in a darkened house. He cannot walk past without wanting to push it open and see what lies inside. Carl Jung once said, "The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed. It is just these intense conflicts and their conflagration which are needed to produce valuable and lasting results." What is unclear, what remains in the shadows, holds the greatest power in the unconscious. People are not captivated by what is fully revealed, but by what lurks behind a veil of ambiguity. When you send a message that doesn't say everything, you unwittingly awaken his instinct to explore. This is the instinct of the seeker, a Jungian archetype buried deep within every man. Imagine 2 scenarios. In the first, you send him, "Good morning, have a great day." He smiles faintly, and within seconds, his mind is swept away by work, notifications, or something else. No lasting impression. But if you write, "I woke up this morning thinking of a dream with you in it, but I can't tell you everything." Instantly, his mind springs to life. What was the dream? Why are you hesitating? Was it about emotions, intimacy, or some silly image that made you laugh? The brain hates incompleteness, so he is compelled to fill the void with his imagination. In that moment, you step directly into his unconscious, becoming a symbol that lingers. Mystery has the power of cinematic art. When a movie trailer reveals the entire plot, you feel bored, with no desire to sit through 2 hours in the theater. Or, "You wouldn't believe it, but I had the strangest dream." You'll have to guess to make it fun. This isn't childish play. It's a psychological strategy that taps into the brain's primal need to fill gaps. Most importantly, mystery is not manipulation. It's the art of withholding a bit of light, letting the darkness tell its own story. As Jung said, what is hidden in the shadows holds power. You don't need to lay bare every thought or explain every detail. Just a touch of ambiguity, a small gap, an unfinished thread. That's enough for his unconscious to complete the picture with you at its center. When he wonders, was that dream about me? What is she thinking? Why did she stop short? You've already become part of his unconscious thought stream. And in that deep place, the strongest connections are forged. The message of mystery is not just a greeting. It's a mirror reflecting the shadows in his mind, making him curious, obsessed, and unable to stop seeking answers from you. Number 2, the message of genuine emotion, tapping into the feeling heart. If mystery is the shadow that gently stirs the imagination, making him seek you in the unconscious, genuine emotion is the warm flame that heats his heart, turning your care into an unforgettable imprint. Mystery may intrigue the mind, but it's emotion that makes people remember, for every significant experience in life is etched by feeling, not logic. Jung said, "Emotions are the chief source of becoming conscious. There can be no transforming of darkness into light, and of apathy into movement without emotion. Emotion is the catalyst, the electric current that ignites consciousness, and in relationships, it's the invisible undercurrent that nurtures every bond." The problem is that most morning messages fall into the trap of social pleasantries. "Have a great day," "Good morning," "Sleep well." Cute, but no different from a recycled line in an old movie. The brain registers, nods, and forgets instantly. There's nothing for the heart to hold on to, no vibration to engrave. To touch deeply, you must send a message that strikes the feeling heart, where he doesn't just read words, but feels seen and understood. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you wrote something that truly moved someone's heart? And tomorrow morning, what will you send to make his heart not corners longing to be heard and acknowledged? Society often demands that they toughen up, appear in control, and stay rational. But beneath that facade lies a primal need, to be understood without judgment. Jung called this the anima, the feminine aspect of a man's soul, holding emotions and vulnerabilities they often hide. When you tap into this with sincerity, you're not just the woman who texted. You become a gateway for him to connect with a part of himself he rarely dares to touch. Remember one principle: emotion doesn't come from flowery words, but from simple truth. If you say, "You're the most amazing man in the world," he might smile, but doubt creeps in. She's just saying that to be nice. But if you ask, "I'm curious, when you're truly happy, what do you do first?" Smile, stay quiet, or share it with someone. This is specific, sincere, and forces him to reflect and share a piece of his true self. In that moment of sharing, an invisible thread is woven between you. Science backs this up. People don't remember what you say, but they vividly recall how you made them feel. A sincere morning message can become an emotional catalyst that resonates all day. It's like the opening note of a song. Whatever follows, that initial tone lingers. When you start his day with genuine care, you plant an emotional foundation in his mind, subtly shaping every other experience that day with your presence. To illustrate, compare it to a journey. A generic message is like a printed map. Anyone can hand it to you, but it carries no personal meaning. A sincere message is like a compass engraved with his name, making him feel, she's not just wishing me a safe trip. She wants to know where I'm going and walk with me in that dream. That difference is what makes him remember you long term. Number 3. The message of imagination, guiding into the world of symbols. Imagination opens a space where he doesn't just think of you, but lives with you in his inner world. Ultimately, the strongest bonds are not formed in reality, but in how we imagine and tie memories, symbols, and emotions to a person. Jung said, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity." Imagination is not a frivolous game. To beautiful scenes, it reaches the deepest emotional layers. A message like, "I just pictured us strolling through a night market, trying some weird food, laughing because neither of us can pronounce its name, though it hasn't happened," creates a pseudo-memory in his mind. The human brain struggles to distinguish between real memories and vividly imagined ones with strong emotions. What matters is the emotional experience, and that's what anchors you in his memory. Imagination has another power. It turns the abstract into symbols. When you write, "If you could pick a song to set the tone for your day, what would it be?" You're not just asking about music. You're evoking a symbol of his mood, his worldview. For Jung, symbols are the language of the unconscious. When he picks a song and shares why, he's letting you deeper into his inner world. That message becomes a doorway to his soul, no longer just cold text. Jung believed that humans don't just live by facts, but by the symbolic images they cherish. So, when you plant seeds of imagination through a message, you're sowing living symbols in his mind. Unlike ordinary words, these symbols have lasting vitality, like an ember that never fully dies. From mystery to genuine emotion to imagination, your morning message journey follows a clear Jungian path, sparking curiosity, forging emotional connection, and guiding him into a world of symbols. In the realm of relationships, it's not logic or reason, but symbols and emotions that bind people together. And when you become a symbol in his imagination, you're no longer just a message, you're an inner experience he cannot let go of. Number 4. The message of implication, igniting the instinct to explore. Implication keeps his mind circling unanswered questions, like someone standing before a half-closed door, unable to resist wanting to open it. But there's another way to touch even deeper, not by hinting at the unknown, but by awakening what already lives in memory. For memory, when stirred at the right moment, has the power to bring a person back to themselves, along with all the emotions they've ever experienced. And that's when the message of memory enters the stage. Carl Jung once pointed out, "What is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate. What remains unrevealed often becomes an invisible force, haunting and guiding thoughts more powerfully than anything obvious." In love, implication operates like a play. If you deliver all the lines from the start, the audience loses interest. But if you drop just a few words, a glance, a pause, their imagination does the rest. And the fascinating thing is, the scenarios he writes in his mind are often more intense than anything you could say outright. Jung believed the unconscious is filled with symbols and images yet to be realized. When you stop mid-sentence, you give your unconscious the chance to fill the gap with images tied to you. Try applying this in an everyday scenario. Imagine this morning you write, "Last night, something unexpected made me think of you, but I'm not sure if I should share it." The sentence is simple, yet it opens countless possibilities in his mind. Was it a joyful memory? Did someone mention his name? Or was it a moment that made you laugh to yourself? The answer isn't given, and that very absence forces him to expend energy guessing, thinking, imagining. You've become an unsolved puzzle, and that alone is enough to hold his attention. What about you? Have you ever sent a half-finished message that left someone restless all day? Share your experience below. Your story might inspire someone else. The key to using implication is knowing when to stop. If you reveal too much too soon, the magic vanishes. It's like a beautifully wrapped gift. If opened to reveal nothing inside, it disappoints. But if you make them wait, anticipate, imagine, the waiting itself becomes a precious emotional experience. Jung said that what is unknown carries immense symbolic power, and that power lies not in the content, but in how it activates another's mind and emotions. Recall a time when someone said to you, "There's something about you I've never told you," and then fell silent. All day that phrase echoed in your mind, making it impossible to fully focus on anything else. An implied message works the same way. It's a psychological hook. Once it catches, his mind is drawn along, whether he wants it to or not. And when you're the one who set the hook, you become the puzzle he's driven to solve. In a world where most morning conversations sound alike, "Have a great day" or "Sleep well," the implication is like a strange note ringing out amidst a predictable choir. It's not loud or ostentatious, but it makes people pause, look up, and listen closer. That's the power of silence, of shadow, of what remains unsaid. As Jung affirmed, it's the unconscious that fundamentally shapes our behavior, not the conscious surface. So, when you want to craft an unforgettable morning message, don't shy away from leaving something unrevealed. A touch of hesitation, a hint of incompleteness, a half-spoken sentence. That's the art of planting seeds in the unconscious. Let him yearn for the answer, and in that search, you become the focal point of his mind. Number 5. The message of memory. Awake is built from private experiences and their associated symbols. When you revive one of those fragments, you don't just make him recall a past scene. You connect with the deepest part of his soul, where he is truly himself. You don't always need a shared memory. You can borrow an imagined memory to create a symbol that feels real. For example, I just pictured us having breakfast at a little roadside cafe, sipping hot coffee and watching people pass by. Strangely, that scene brought you to my mind. Though it never happened, the image touches the emotional layer because the brain readily accepts imagined memories when tied to specific feelings. That's why people often reminisce about a day that feels lived in a dream. False memories can carry real weight. The wonder lies in this. A recalled memory is never retrieved exactly as it was. It's always reconstructed, colored by the present. When you're the one reminding him of a memory, that memory takes on your imprint. He no longer recalls it as something that happened independently. He recalls it tied to you, the one who brought it back to life. It's like an old book gifted by someone. From then on, you don't just remember the story, but the person who placed it in your hands. When a man receives a memory-evoking message, His mind doesn't just return to the past, it reaches toward the future. For memories carry an invitation. Can we live this again? A small reminder of a beautiful day gone by often sparks a desire to create more days like it. You're not just reminding him of the past, you're planting excitement for what could be created with you in the future. In the Jungian world, memories and symbols don't just reside in the personal unconscious. They touch the collective unconscious. A memory of childhood, freedom, or simple joy can awaken the child archetype in him, the archetype of innocence and renewal. When you revive that part, you don't just touch a private memory, you awaken a universal instinct every man longs to return to, the feeling of living authentically, unburdened, unguarded. Number 6. The message of recognition, striking the deepest self. Memory can bring him back to old emotions, but to keep him anchored in the present and yearning to draw closer, you need a message that strikes the deepest core. Recognition. Jung asserted, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." People crave to be seen and acknowledged, yet often fear facing themselves fully. So when someone is perceptive enough to see their true value, not just the surface, they become an indelible mark. A typical morning greeting is like a business card handed out in haste. Anyone can do it. But a message that recognizes his true essence is like a rare mirror reflecting his authentic self, making him pause and reflect. She saw something most people overlook. For example, "Good morning. I still remember how calm you stayed yesterday when everyone else was stressed. I really admire that steadiness." Just one sentence, but it touches a part he doesn't often show, a part he may not even be sure others notice. In that moment, you become a witness to his true self. Pause for a moment and imagine, if someone named a quality you quietly cherish in yourself, how profound would that feel? Psychology confirms, people vividly remember those who make them feel recognized. Emotional memory encodes such moments not just as compliments, but as proof of existence. Jung called this the need to integrate the ego with the deeper self. When you recognize a specific trait or action, you help him bridge that gap, making him feel more whole. And that wholeness carries your imprint. Don't confuse recognition with flattery. Flattery is like a cheap gift, pretty on the outside but empty within. True recognition is like a thoughtful gift, chosen just for him, something only someone who observes and understands can offer. A generic, "You're amazing" may bring a fleeting smile, but it fades quickly. But a message like, "I notice how your eyes light up when you talk about your work. That energy inspires me too," is personalized recognition, touching something he may not easily see in himself. That specificity engraves it deeply. Picture a man in a crowded meeting. Colleagues may praise his results, his boss may notice his productivity, but few see how he fidgets with his pen to stay calm under pressure, or how he leans in when truly listening. If you mention those details in a morning message, "I remember how quietly you listened to others sharing yesterday." It's rare to find someone who listens like you. He'll be surprised. That's a small but real part of him, rarely noticed. When you become the one who sees, you claim a unique place. In Jung's theory, the ego craves affirmation, but what truly moves people is when the self, the deepest center of personality, is touched. Deep recognition is like a gentle tap on the heart, enough to unleash suppressed energy. Often, a man doesn't need to hear he's strong. He needs to hear that his sensitivity, perseverance, or quiet passion matters. When you highlight that, you don't just recognize him on the surface, you acknowledge his entire essence. Remember, recognition creates an emotional anchor. A gift, a date, a sweeter message. This uncertainty forces his mind to orbit around you, like a planet unable to escape the sun's pull. In psychology, this ties to the concept of the expectancy effect. When the brain anticipates a positive experience, it releases dopamine even before the event occurs. In other words, he feels joy just imagining it. And since you're the source of that anticipation, that joy is directly tied to you. An anticipation message doesn't just create a moment of curiosity. It plants a sustained emotional current, keeping you present in his mind for hours. The beauty of anticipation is that it turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. A simple coffee, if he knows you prepared it with excitement to see his smile, becomes unforgettable. A routine walk, if prefaced with a promise of something special waiting, makes him step forward with a racing heart. Jung believed that what hasn't yet materialized often carries greater symbolic power than what's clearly seen. In that not yet, the unconscious fills the gap with imagination and desire, making the eventual experience far richer. A practical example. You might write, "Tonight, I have a little surprise for you. Just thinking about your reaction makes me smile. You don't need to reveal details." What he receives isn't information, but the emotion you've already sent. He'll live in that emotion all day, curious, excited, eager. That's an invisible but powerful presence, making you the center of his emotional world. The key is that anticipation doesn't require grand gestures. A song sent later, a cute photo, a detail tied to an old conversation, all can become a surprise when wrapped in expectation. It's the intention and the psychological frame you create that generate the pull, not the material itself. Like in the theater, sometimes the audience applauds not for a grand scene, but for the pause before the curtain rises. In the Jungian world, anticipation is connected to the wanderer archetype, the longing to embark on a new journey and explore the unknown. When you plant the sense that something awaits him, you awaken that instinct. He doesn't just anticipate your surprise, he anticipates the journey with you. In that state, you're no longer just a woman, you're a milestone on the path he's heading toward. Remember, an anticipation message isn't just a promise, it's an act of planting seeds in the unconscious. It makes him feel emotions even before you appear, positioning you as the center of that emotional flow. When he opens his eyes in the morning, he doesn't just see your words, he sees a vision, a feeling, something unfinished that he yearns to reach. This series of 7 morning messages, when woven together, creates a complete journey, from mystery-sparking curiosity to sincerity-touching emotions, imagination opening a world of symbols, implication prompting reflection, memory reviving personal symbols, recognition illuminating essence, and finally, anticipation keeping him in a cycle of desire. Each step is steeped in Jungian philosophy. Humans are guided not by dry logic, but by the unconscious, symbols, and emotions others awaken in us. When you master crafting messages that carry symbolic weight, you're not just texting, you're planting sweet obsessions in his mind, making him unable to forget you. As the morning curtain falls, what lingers isn't the number of messages you send, but the quality of presence you sow in his mind, and more importantly, in your own inner world. Jung reminds us that every lasting connection begins with an inner encounter. The writer dialogues with the shadow before touching another with light. Writing a message, then, isn't a trick for answers. It's a subtle discipline of consciousness, knowing where your words come from and what you aim to awaken in the other. From this moment, treat each word as a small ritual. Breathe, listen to your intuition, choose the right symbol, send it with the calm of someone unattached. Experiment, observe, adjust. Let each morning be a spiritual experiment drawing you closer to your true self. And when your inner strength is solid, your allure will emerge naturally, quietly, but will be impossible to ignore. Now it's your turn. Tomorrow morning, which words will you choose to open the door within?